home prices indefinitely into the future. So everybody that lived in a house just figured they just struck it rich. The whole country acted like they won the lottery. And so we all were spending money. Well, reality set in ultimately when housing prices went down. And now we're sobering up, right, from all that government alcohol. And so what do we have to do? Well, gee, we spent too much money. We've got to stop spending. I need to rebuild. People have to rebuild their savings. They got nothing left. I was relying on home equity and ever-increasing stock prices. I better start saving my money. And so consumers stop spending. A lot of people are employed in businesses that were dependent on that spending, whether people working in home improvement, realtors, people working at Home Depot, people working at all sorts of companies where the only reason they were able to sell things is because people thought they had more money than they had. So these people have to lose their jobs. So we need a severe recession. And I'm saying we need the recession because we've got a lot of mistakes, right? The boom, the artificial boom that you have when you have government interference in the money supply and with interest rates, that boom is a disease. That's what sickens the economy. It's during the recession where the market tries to right itself, tries to get rid of those toxins and reestablish a healthy economy. The problem is, the bigger the boom, the bigger the disease, the more difficult it is for the problems to be corrected. So we started off in this recession with a lot of problems. We needed a lot of work to do. And now you have Barack Obama coming into office, just like George Bush, right? He's inheriting a busted asset bubble and a recession that he didn't cause. He was in the Senate, so I guess he was part of the problem. But, he walked into it just like Bush. And what does he want to do? Does he want to level with the American public and say, you know what, we were living in a fantasy economy before I got here? We were spending too much, we were borrowing too much, home prices were too high, that we're going to have to suck it up and we're going to have to pay for all those mistakes? No, he did the exact same thing as Bush. Let's stimulate. Let's postpone the pain. Let's not let the market work. So under Bush, we brought interest rates to 1%. Well, now we brought them to zero. Zero. I mean, look at all the damage we did with 1%. Imagine what we're going to get with zero. And Bush's deficits, $300 billion. What was it? $300 billion to left. $400 billion. Now we're doing over $1 trillion, $1.5 trillion, $2 trillion a year. And that's before we had health care and cap and trade and whatever else they're trying to throw at us. So we're talking about going off the charts. And so if you can think about the effects of the Bush Greenspan stimulus, the havoc that wrought on our economy, the collapse of all these banks, this is the worst recession since the Great Depression, and that is the result of the stimulus under Bush and Greenspan. Imagine the result of this stimulus, because it's way bigger, right? So the bust is going to be much, much worse. And I think the way it's going to play out, the last crisis, the crisis that we just left, was a financial crisis. The coming crisis, that's going to start in a year or two, is a currency crisis, which is going to be much, much worse than the financial crisis. And the currency crisis is brought on by a collapse in the value of our money. Why is the value of the dollar going to collapse? Because we're printing so many of them. We are printing way too many dollars. We're printing dollars to prop up businesses, to keep Americans spending, when the real thing is we don't want Americans to spend. They spend too much. The only way we can have a real recovery is if Americans stop spending, and we have a recession. We need to repair our balance sheets personally. We need a lot more savings. We need a savings rate of maybe 10 or 15%, and we need to keep it there for a generation. Because economies grow because you save. Because savings enables capital investment. And capital investment enables production and employment and all the things that we want and all the economic growth. Savings is where it starts. And so that's what we have to do. But unfortunately, we have to transition from this phony bubble economy brought on by cheap money to a sustainable economy. And there are some growing pains. There's transitional unemployment. There's a lot of things that have to happen to readjust. But if we want to try to, for political reasons, try to deny reality and pretend that the solution is to go deeper into debt, that we should just try to get Americans to buy more cars and buy more houses when we already bankrupted our country because people bought cars and houses that they couldn't afford, and now we're trying to get them to buy more, we're creating a bigger problem. We're giving alcohol to a drunk, and we hope that it's going to sober him up. It's not. And so what happens is we create all this money, and now the dollar collapses. And in the financial crisis, what politicians were worried about was people losing money. People having money in the money market, and the money market breaks a buck, and now they lose some of their money. Or people, their house goes down, they lose their home equity, their stocks go down, a bank fails. So it's all about losing money. Okay, the government's now fixed it, so we're not going to lose any money. We can all go like this. No one's going to lose any money. But the problem is the money's going to lose its value. And that's worse, because the government can't make losses go away. The government doesn't have any money, it doesn't have any wealth. Right? When David is talking about the government should give money to the states, what money? The government doesn't have any money. It has a printing press. That's all it has. And when it prints money, it destroys its value. It's spending purchasing power that already exists in the circulation, but it's spending it on things it wants, and so you can't spend it on things you want. And so when the dollar collapses in value, all of a sudden, it's not, the losses are going in terms of purchasing power. We blew trillions and trillions of dollars. These are real losses. Right? People bought houses. They're never going to pay that money back. They spent the money. They bought, look around, all the stuff that we've been buying, all the stuff that Walmart had on its shelves, look at your neighbor's driveway, look at all this stuff. We bought all that stuff. We don't have the money to pay for it. We never did. So it's a huge loss. It can't come back. And so the dollar's going to collapse. And what happens then? So the dollar collapses, and then prices just go ballistic for consumer goods. The prices that will go up first will be the most basic commodity-type things that are readily exchangeable around the world, such as food and energy. So people are going to start to see oil prices going up, not just to $4 a gallon like we saw last time, but $10 a gallon, $20 a gallon. It's not just going to be oil. It's going to be milk, it's going to be bread, it's going to be corn, it's going to be basic commodities that are going to get very expensive. And then ultimately what's going to happen is other currencies around the world who have been loading up on dollars and pegging their currencies to the dollar, they're going to depeg because they're going to be under too much pressure to print too much money. There's no way that China can keep printing RMB at the rate they are. They're going to have to stop. And of course, if they stop, they have to let their currency go up. And so they will depeg, and the Middle East will depeg, and many countries will depeg. And then it's not just going to be food and energy that's going to go up. It's going to be everything. It's going to be all the clothing, all the products that are coming in from China that are so inexpensive. The rest of the world, all of a sudden, going to Walmart will be going to Neiman Marcus. It's going to be, so Americans they're not going to be able to spend. Their money's not going to have any value. So sure, you're going to go to the bank and your money's still going to be there because the government bailed out the bank by printing money. But when you go and take your money out of the bank and you can't buy anything with it because the prices have gone up so much, it's the same impact.